Hey, Alex here. Thanks again for joining. This is video number 4. I want to talk a little bit about how do you know for sure you're on this journey. I know you've watched a million, probably other twin flame videos about this, but I thought that I should have something from my heart that would help you without writing down there's 5 things or 4 things. I'm just going to straight up say that you'll know you're on this journey for a few reasons. Number 1 is that you are initiated into extreme, excruciating pain, where it feels like once you've met this person, doesn't matter if you had a bubble love phase or if it was just a meeting or if it was online or what have you, if you had, after meeting and a soul recognition happened, which you may or may not have known happened, but you had this separation happen between the two bodies in the 3rd dimension here, and this excruciating feeling of being like losing a part of your soul, literally soul loss. It's like fragmenting, like fragmented soul, just excruciating pain that does not make sense. That just doesn't make sense. That you end up on the floor, like suddenly after almost seemingly out of the blue, that this relationship or whatever the encounter was triggered this sudden breaking away that leaves you on the floor. And so that would be definitely a piece of this. A second part of it would be what can be called a Kundalini awakening. It's a Kundalini awakening is what happens, but you don't always necessarily feel it. A lot of people feel it in the body. Certainly, a lot in the solar plexus and in the heart chakra, and then also in the sacral, where you can feel, lots of pain. But for some, it's not quite that strong, and it's a little bit more subtle. But the Kundalini awakening, in the sense of lots of energy moving in the body, and that's almost inexplicable, and tons of triggering, so much coming up that is overwhelming. It's overwhelming energy, and it's coming up mental, emotional, and physical, all in a big mess. So this is the beginning of that Kundalini awakening. So now you've experienced a separation, a polarization that's happened that just leaves you feeling broken into 2 pieces and crying on the floor. Then you have all of this energy movement and stuff coming up. And then comes the period where the life around you seems to begin to fall apart, where anything unlike your soul's intention of inner union and then eventual union with your twin, anything unlike that intention for your soul has come up to be cleared at the same freaking time, all at one time. You went straight into unconditional love frequency and met God, your wholeness, in the twin. Again, whether it was a quick meeting or maybe 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months, or maybe you were with your person for a long time before that soul recognition, before that initiation time was meant to happen, but it happened. And then, right, the energetic wall goes up, and it's, so that's a huge part of it, that Kundalini awakening. And then the thing's starting to fall apart because everything wants to move out. It's like your merging of your DNA pushes out everything out completely. And so your work, the people around you, everything gets triggered. Everything gets triggered. It starts to fall, it almost seemingly falls apart, like as you're watching it. Things feel out of alignment so clearly, and you can't get up off the floor, and you want nothing but to find your twin because you want relief. And then comes the period where you recognize that you're on a spiritual awakening. You're having what dark night of the soul, which is basically the rocking and all this stuff that's happening I'm just talking about. You start to recognize that again, everything that's unlike your soul's intention, all of the identities, your ego, okay, everything you've identified as you, rightly or wrongly or whatever, it's all still separation consciousness. All of that separation consciousness, the ego, begins to crumble as your soul is calling you into unity. And so all of that stuff needs to be alchemized and turned back into love. All that fear-based energy needs to come back into love. And so you are literally like in shambles and realizing slowly that your spiritual awakening has just begun, because you are so strongly called at this point to do anything for relief. And the only relief that you begin to see is going to be spiritual. It's going to be a spiritual thing, because everything is questioned in your life at that point. Who am I? What just happened? Why is everything falling apart? And it's a total ego death. And that's part of, if you watch the last video, I talked about the spirals. And by the way, if you haven't watched other videos, go back and start at the beginning, because they kind of build a little bit. But as you're going through the spirals, ego death comes around. It comes, and then it'll seem to go away, and then you'll have more, and then it goes. So multiple dark nights. I just call them dark nights. You know, it could be a period in the beginning for a while, but then they can be shorter and continue to come in waves. And then suddenly there's these, I guess you could call them synchronicities. I don't really get into the synchronicities, even though they're all over the place. I don't get into the telepathy either, even though it's a fascinating, beautiful thing. All of that still keeps you in separation consciousness, unless you can look at them properly. Not a conversation for right now, but you will be led to twin flame information. Obviously, here you are. But unfortunately, it's because there's so much BS out there and people that are trying to, make a buck. There's a lot of content out there that just keeps people looping in pain, giving them hope, continuing to focus outside, focusing on the twin that is in separation, right? Separation consciousness, not actually in separation, but you're looking outside for your soul. You're looking for yourself in your soul instead of looking into your soul for your soul. So all of this stuff, like trying to read into the future, thinking about the past, all of this is like just keeping you in this looping cycles. And so there's this period of the looping and they call it runner, chaser, what have you, push, pull, that starts to kind of kick in, and you've been led to twin flame information and somehow, some way. Ironically, it was, for me, it was somebody sent me something and I was like, I don't believe in that stuff. That's just identifying with, I've been a spiritual person anyway. I'd already been through many awakenings. I'm like, I don't identify that's specialness, I didn't want to go there. And lo and behold, I didn't realize that I was on the journey. And that was actually something that when I did listen to it, I was kind of like, sounds like what I'm going through. And then I kind of leaned in a little bit, but I went down the tarot path myself. And so there's the tarot readings, just trying to sort it out and figure it out and what's happening and what's going to change. And it's just crazy period, right? So that would be another thing, is just cannot get enough information, just consuming so much information. So I do have another channel, and I talk about all things awakening anyways. And of course, the work that I do has always been around that, and it's even more so. But I felt so called to work with twin flames, being one, and being able to really sort through the journey with the work that I do. And so if you are already at a point where you're like, okay, I'm up to here with twin flame information, and you already know you're on the journey, then hop on over to my other channel and stop even thinking about it. This was part of why I didn't want to necessarily create a channel and talk about it, was because I didn't want to be focused on it in that way. But at the same time, what a calling to people that are really, talk about spiritual awakening on, times 1,000. There's just nothing like it. It is intense, and it's a paradox, and it is really set up. Your soul set it up because your soul knew this was your time. And I think that's why it's rare, and that you could handle it. And some people stay in the journey for years and years and years and years. I think less now, but many people do. And so, the sooner you really recognize that Okay, that's what it is. It was an initiation. And the sooner I get my focus off of the other body and get focused on myself and do that journey, you're going to come to peace and a centeredness and a wholeness that, again, you won't even care about the twin, but the twin will come back. It just is what happens. Again, that's the big grand paradox about the whole thing. And so I just want to continue to share more and more about the energetics so that you can really not see them even as a person, and instead really focus on your own inner polarities and keeping, continuing to alchemize your way up to the highest frequencies, where then you and your soul are inner union, and your divine masculine and feminine internally are in balance. And that's when you can sustain union with your physical twin. You won't sustain it until then. You can magnetize them back, but you won't sustain it. So I think that's what I want to talk about here today. And I have another idea already, so maybe I'll go ahead and record one more. And so I'm not going to change my clothes one more time, but number 5, I believe it will be. I'll record that one next. And until then, if you want to work with me or you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, go ahead and click down below, and you'll also see my other channel there as well. Thanks.